Thanks for coming. Thanks for inviting me, Jonesy and Neil. And for me, it's a world pleasure to be here to do this with you guys. So, yeah, feel free to ask questions. Not too close for me, but
Derrick, thank you. Life's busy at the moment, I believe. You just back there playing again tomorrow.
yes, flying to Mexico tomorrow to do a gig with a DJ, live drums DJ, and keyboard player Pat Johnson, who plays with Jamiroquai. Yeah, so I'm going to do a few gigs with him. So while he's tour, he's harassed for his album. Yeah.
So we're really grateful that you've especially made the trip down here with and we're going to get back, pack some bags. You should get that again tomorrow. Yeah, very sure that's fine.
Probably Dutch woman as well.
Well, we're looking forward to getting to know you and hearing something of your story. And we're grateful for you for just give us that opportunity.
Right, fair enough. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit. We've seen just a little bit of the video, but for those who maybe don't know Jamiroquai and the story, just tell us a bit about the band, what do you do when you're not doing things like this.
Right. So I am a full-time musician, and I have done this from the age of 26 or something like that, and a very long time. And I was semi-pro at 14. I did my first gig and got paid for it at 15. So I was still at school. That's unheard of, but to him that was an always. So I've now been with the band for 31 years. Yeah. And I joined the band on album two, Space Cowboy. It's a jazz pop disco extravaganza, and that's what it's been called. Named as jazz funk, or the jazz funk juggernaut, I believe, as somebody else called it here. So the main music that we do is disco, full disco based, but based with a bit of jazz funk as well. I call it disco funk. That's my style, drumming style. And it's been great actually. It's just, I've been blessed with Jesus, with a great band, great boss, opportunity to play the music that I love as well, and to travel the world and do all sorts of kind of really cool things. Means to go with people as well.
We'll hear a bit more as we go. But you're just recording a new album as well?
Recording a new album, yeah. We started that not last year, but the year before. Jay completely refurbished the studio. Jay Singer. He completely refurbished the studio, and he wasn't sure how to kind of get the sound up and running and everything. So I just suggested that I go in with drums and just work for 3 days with an engineer who also was engineering the album down. So that's a good way for me to get to know the engineer, get to know the room and everything. So we started recording that January last year. Was the first proper recording session.
Your that's finished now.
No.
So more to do.
Still more to do. I actually went in a couple of weeks ago just to re-record drums, but I wasn't happy with them. I didn't think Jay actually agreed. Let's do something better on it. He'd come up with something better. It's great, but I mean, so sometimes just I'm visiting these things. Jay is now kind of getting to the stage where he's finishing writing the songs and the strings are being done and things like that, so. And he's back in and they actually have some record company people come and have a listen to some small tracks. Basically, yeah. Still on that disco funk kind of vibe. So yeah. Going back to the kind of the traditional side of Jamiroquai with a bit of the modern as well.
Yeah. Musically, your influences that have taken you on this sort of path?
God. Wow. Okay, so my musical influences are a keyboard player called Patrice Rusher, trumpet player called Donald Byrd, a drummer, Billy Cobham, who's amazing, one of my favourite drummers, and also another drummer, Harvey Hayes, is another one of my favourite all-time drummers, purely because he's actually a percussionist, orchestral percussionist. So he plays pipes and timpani and things like that. But the way he translates that into the drum kit, it's a really musical way, you know. But he's also a composer as well. He's a writer, he's a producer, and they're also, you know, some records and possibly, yeah. You know,
He's still going strong.
still going strong. He was starting to retire now. He goes, Derrick, I just play golf now. He's using it then, so we very well.
Yeah, you can play a lot of golf now.
Yeah.
So tell us, let's go back to the beginning, just your way we got the bug, the drumming, how did it all start for you?
I started, well, I had to say I've been very strict for many years. I have to say I inherited the rhythm to play drums through my parents. And I literally just heard something on the radio, with some music on the radio, and I just picked up, not drumsticks, but my mum's club handers, and then we started banging on the floor. We talked, how old? 5 or 6. Yeah, I just, thinking in my head, you know, when you're kind of back to church, you know what's going on, thinking that you sound like a record back to you, just going, yes. But that's kind of where it all kind of started. And my parents always played music in the house. So every Saturday, Sunday, it would be music blaring. Dad's got involved with reel-to-reels, and he'd be playing the music, you know, all day. And we'd have visitors come round, and everything, like they'd come round in the morning, like 10:30, 10 o'clock, and they wouldn't leave until the evening, you know what I mean? And they would stay there for one day, laughing and having jokes and that, you know, and having a good drink and all this kind of stuff.
A happy home?
Oh, very much so. Yeah. Always a happy home. My parents wouldn't have it any other way. It's always about happy times. Always about happy times. And they're always very welcoming. So, always. And they pass that down to us.
So you're banging your coat hammers
Yeah.
at 5, then you've already alluded by the time you're sort of 14,
Yeah.
someone's actually paying you to do what you love.
Yeah. Well, the good thing was that a friend of my sister, who's also a Christian, he played organ, and he actually heard me playing the drum, because I was playing to records at this point, so I was practicing the records in my own little home. And he said, actually, you hold the rhythm really, really well. You know, I was like, oh, okay, thank you very much. You know, because why don't you come to one of our rehearsals and play the drums? I was like, oh, right, okay, cool. You know, so I went along and watched them all rehearse and everything. And you're right, just the first rehearsal I'd ever been to. So my eyes were like absolutely just wide open, jaw dropping, you know, drum, bass, all these instruments, percussion, everything, you know, and sounded amazing. And when they had a break, the drummer said, "Cool, have a go, you know, jump on the drums." And of course, I jumped on the drums, and that was the first time I kind of got on the drums, you know, I mean, properly, and it was the wrong way round. So it was right hand. Okay, so you're a left hand, he was playing this. And I play that way, the hi-hats on this side, you know. He goes, "Oh, you're left-handed." I'm like, "Yeah, I am left-handed." But I was just thinking left-handed because I'm left-handed. But we actually swapped them around. You know. And it actually felt really comfortable for me. And it was from that point onwards I knew that I could, you know, really get into this. And I really wanted to get into it all.
So from about 14, you thought, this is what
I wanted to do, yeah. And being at school, you know, all I did was just tap on the desk all the time. Very annoying. you stop the noise? Yeah. Mrs. Alexander, will you stop it? I'm like, what? Yeah.
But you didn't get to play at school then.
No. I was actually refused to play in the band. I didn't refuse to play in the band. I went
Fail and audition.
Apparently, yeah. But alrighty. You know,
Have you reconnected with some of those teachers who failed you?
no. It's only one music teacher, bless him, you know, Mr. Nichols. He was cool, actually. He was actually cool, very classically trained, and knew everything, you know. And I think the only reason why he refused me was because there was basically cops you can put on for the drunk, basically, and that was it, yeah. So I'll give him that.
We need to find it.
It's a blind bit, yeah.
So you play for a number of bands. I think if I've got this right from our conversation, it's also called Pure and Simple.
Pure and Simple, that was the first proper band I ever joined, yeah. So in my first one, with the teacher, but we had a new member of class come in, and the head of year booked this girl to sit next to me, and her name is Toyin Adekarlian. And so you say hello and all that. You don't get to conversation because you're busy with your mates, you know what I mean? You laugh at them. But as time went on, you know, she kept kind of hearing me tap and all that. And she goes, "Oh, I'm a singer." It's like, "Oh, really?" I went, "Oh, okay, cool. Yes, you play the drums?" I'm like, "No, I haven't got my own drum kit, but, you know, I'd like to say, you know, I play the drum." Well, that sort of conversation went on as young as you are. And he says, "When I get my band, I'm going to get you in, you know." I'm like, "Okay, great." So, and as time went on, of months, whatever, and another friend of mine, Roy Mason, said, "Oh, I'm playing with Toy, you know." I was like, "Are you? Oh, great." Because she's got another drummer. And I'm like,
You keep listening.
I keep getting out there, what's going on? What? Yeah. But he actually said, he then added to say, "The drum's not great." So I think we should get you in, you know. I'm like, "Well, I'm here, you know, whenever you're ready." And as it goes, there was some issues with the drummer anyway. There was some issues with the drums. And it just so happened that Toy had to tell him to leave because they had a bit of an attitude, apparently. I don't know. So they called me in, I played, and that was my first proper gig. Yeah. That was my first proper gig joining Pure and Simple of Toy. Toy was already known on the scene. And even at that age, that young man,
Kind of music.
she was doing reggae music. Yeah, doing reggae music. And she was already recording, doing sessions, all that live shows. She was already doing that. But her mind was set on being an artist in her own way, because she'd done so much. When I got, she'd already done a lot. And you know, when you think, I thought to myself, "God, she's done so much. I wish I could do that," you know. But you just think about it, do you know what I mean? You don't think, "Oh, you'd be able to do it," you know. But she, you know, she was actually really good. She was great. She was a big influence, and she's now Christian, and she lives in she lives on the West Coast. East Coast, Washington. She's in Washington. Yeah. She lives on a boat in Washington.
So you're in strong touch.
Yeah, absolutely. You literally use the contact. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, she's been amazing. Big to ball.
Time is always going to be against us in these kind of conversations. So we've got
Time?
and a plan, give some follow-up bands,
Yeah.
speeches,
Yeah.
and then Jamiroquai.
And then
Jamiroquai.
So the Jamiroquai story is, I was with Urban Speeches doing their tour and working with them, doing their shows,
And they're doing what kind of music?
hip hop, kind of jazzy hip hop kind of vibe, you know, which is great. Because I've never done anything like that before. But it was actually really cool music to play. And after a few years of being with them, I was kind of getting a bit bored playing that kind of music. But I knew it was where I had to be, basically. Anyway, so on my way to rehearsals one day, I stepped out the door. The phone rang. It was back in the day before the youngsters didn't think I'm old here. Could be right. Before mobile phones. So the phone rang. I'd already locked up the house, put the alarm on, ran back to the door, opened the door, did the code on the alarm, picked up the phone, and it was the A&R guy from EMI, basically. And he'd said to me, he goes, "Oh, I've got your number from a friend of yours, Simon Law, who's a producer," and said, "Look, there's this band, they're called Jamiroquai, they're looking for, do you want to audition?" I was like, "Oh, all right, fine, why not?" You know. So they arranged for me to do.
And did you know anything about them?
No, I didn't even know who Jamiroquai was at the time. No, I'd heard the music, but I didn't know who they were. Yeah. And funnily enough, I heard the music on the radio, knew what they were trying to do, but it did sound quite right. I was like, yeah, that doesn't sound quite right. I just I will have as well. Yeah, it was like, yeah, that's not the way I would play it. Arrogance, you know what I mean? But anyway, so I went on to the audition. I was actually rehearsing with Broken Species that day. So I said, "Sorry guys," to bend the truth a bit, and said, "I'm going to a meeting." So put my sticks down, jumped in the car, went over to Shepherd's Bush, went into Nova Studios, which is just by Shepherd's Bush, down the back end of the Shepherd's Bush Road, tube station, and got in, met Kevin, the manager, and met a couple of other people from another band called Brand New Headies. So I met the bass player and Simon, probably the guitarist as well. And then Kevin brought me into the audition room. Like, "Right guys, it's going, yeah, they're all good." And I got behind the hit. It's like right at the end of the day, and then just started playing, really, you know.
Others have been trying as well.
Yeah, there've been other drummers. I was basically the last drummer of the second day, basically. So I was right at the back of the day. And I just got on well with the guys, you know what I mean? You know, I'd listened to the tracks on the way to the audition whilst driving from North London to the West London. And, you know, we just gelled. It was really good. Yeah, we had lots of fun. Played the tracks, it was cool. And then right at the back of the room, there's two people standing, one of them being Kevin and another guy standing next to him. And then another guy who was Wallace, the didgeridoo. And I thought, oh, what are those guys doing here? You know what I mean? You know, anyway, Kevin I knew, the other two I didn't know at all. Then Kevin went out, Jay went out. I didn't know his name was Jay at the time. So, and then they came back in and they came over and this guy goes, "Hi, I'm Jay." I'm like, "Nice to meet you, mate." Stood up, shook his hand and sat us down and then just started playing again, you know. No acknowledgement, or very minimal acknowledgement, because I was just busy kind of in the zone with the guy, you know, so I just kept on playing. Anyway, literally like a minute later, he picks up the mic and he starts singing. And then I went, "Huh? Oh, you're the guy with the voice." Okay, I get it now. I was thinking, "Oh, the guy with the voice, yeah." And when you're going to learn, he's saying, "Too young to die," he's saying, or, you know, so, yeah. And that's how we kind of all, that's how I got the job, basically. I had to do another audition the next day as well, or a couple of days later. So between me and another guy, and I got the job.
No, didn't fail that one.
I didn't fail that one, yeah.
So Derrick, that changed your life.
Yeah.
So,
because I was coming from was mid-level band to then step up. But I was completely unknown on the scene. completely unknown. Nobody knew who I was, you know. And that's the top drummers going to the play. Yeah, you know, top drummers who I actually admire. They,
So tell us a little bit, life on the road, big venues and, well, massive. That was the biggest crowd to play with you?
250,000 actually. 250,000 in Brazil, Rocky in Rio. But that's a part of a festival. So they'll see us, Stevie Wonder, and a few other Brazilian bands and stuff. 4 million people, yeah. Yeah. So that was fun.
So big venues and tour buses. How did your world change? What did it feel like, and what was reality for you at that point? And as you first began to taste fame and success?
Amazing, really, because you know you don't know what to expect, right? So you go from basically setting up your own drums to then somebody coming to set your drums up, and you got technicians, you got lights, spoons, all this kind of stuff. Then happening, the big PA system, and I'm listening, but not just like a club stuff, like massive, big like hanging speakers and stuff like that. They're just doing venues that are like you've gone from doing 500-600 seaters to like 2,500, 3,000 seaters, and that was back then, on the Space Cowboy too. Yeah. So it changed my life dramatically, and I think we lots of fun.
That changed you.
Yeah, I was just having lots of fun, to be honest. Yeah, lots of fun. Different world completely, I do play the music, but what I never really experienced was the real fun side after the show. Do you know what I mean? So we'd go clubbing, drinking, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And then stay out till super late with the gig the next day. Jumping on a bus and then going on hungover, by the way. And then just getting into to be late about it, just getting into a very hardcore rock and roll lifestyle, basically. I'll be honest. I never did drugs, by the way, just so I hasten to add that. Never did drugs or anything like that. But I was a big drinker. Yeah, it was a drinker.
And keeping in touch with family?
Yeah, keeping in touch with the family was it was actually okay. Yeah, I always had to ring home, but not all the time. Do you know what I mean? Not because I didn't want to, but just couldn't. Because of where we were. By then, but I got my first mobile phone because I could afford to by then. Do you know what I mean? So I got off banana phone, something like that. Not yet banana.
Yeah, some people really
Go up with that, and like, Nokia banana phone, you see, yeah. And then, so kept in touch. And the kids, well, I don't remember, I had my first child, Jam. So.
And just so we got it on record, your favourite Jamiroquai song to play?
Ooh, I would say all of them. But my favourite Jamiroquai song to play is A Cosmic Girl, obviously, which is already a big hit, But musically, there's a track called Star Child, which is on the synchronized now.
Yeah. That's a big drum solo on full.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's just a very musical track, and being with the band, there's something quite special about playing that track. I'm not quite sure what it is, but Jay loves to sing it. We love to play it, and it always sounds really good. Even after all these years we play it, and it just sounds really, really good.
Fantastic. Yeah. And favourite place, country to visit, to play in? Who really connects well with Jamiroquai?
Europe, France is France, Italy, South America is massive for us. Yeah, South America, Mexico, we can go to one. Brazil, really good. Chile, all those types of countries. South America is a big hit for us. And those are quite difficult, because they only play 4 clubs in that, because the music's quite specific. you know. But we do well. We still do like 3,000 seaters, which is good for a UK disco funk band. Where you can do well.
So there you are. You hit the big time. You're enjoying life. You musically more successful than you could have ever imagined. You're traveling the world, you're making money. In lots of ways, life is good.
Yeah, really good.
But as time goes by, the challenges begin to grow.
Yeah.
So tell us.
So, yeah, of course, with the money that you make, you then spend more. The challenges of just being away from home a lot, really. You know, missing your children for my case, that point, it was child. And I was with my girlfriend at the time, myself at the time, and then that relationship started to take a strain, of course, and you try to manage it the best that you can, but it's just sometimes it's just too much, it's just too much, and then that starts to affect the children, and it starts to affect my daughter and stuff. And you kind of down this road of, I wouldn't say loneliness, but it's a road where you just don't know where you're going to end up, basically. And it's very difficult for me in the way of finding it hard to deal with, and then you go to spirits, you want to the spirit, man, the spirit, and that was even post split. It was still spending stuff, because I was still touring. I finding it difficult to see like the house and stuff. So yeah, it was hard. I started drinking, and quite a lot as well.
You were drinking in a different way, in the sense that there's a coping way to cope?
Yeah, like a coping mechanism. But at the time, I didn't know. I was just drinking just to have a jolly up, to be honest. At the time, I thought it was just having a jolly up. But it was actually, as you say, it's a coping mechanism, dealing with the pressures of life itself, and then having to then start another album. You see? And then you're like going, okay, what am I going to do on this next album? So you've got that as well as paying your bills and everything almost.
So it feels like it's a conveyor belt that's never ending.
Yeah. Because you always want to be better musically. You just want to be better than your last project, So what we did was, for the third album, which would have been Jamiroquai's third album, my second album, we went residential, basically. So we went away and lived in a big house out in Milton Keynes, 5 days a week, basically. And I just made the album. Yeah, it was actually really good. It was actually good for us as musicians, And the good thing is that our other halves could come and see us and stuff. Just kind of all of it home. We're in our environment there, and we're dealing with everything in a much better way as well.
So musically, success continues, but inside, things are starting to feel not so good.
Yeah, not so good. So now, moving forward a few years, I then, I met my ex-wife. We had 2 kids. I bought a big house. The whole 9 yards, basically, the cars, the this, the that, everything, and it was lovely, living the high life and all that. My first time of doing that, didn't know what to expect, which is living the high life, but all that comes at a cost. And then what happens is, once that money, because we paid all of our money, we had a royalties, which was fine, but then the touring was really the bigger. The touring was really the bigger. But once that touring stops, you then, because you've been on the road for so long, you then have to get back into the whole kind of session musician system. And that's hard. letting people know that, you know what I mean? You know, and then the money starts to be doing and everything like that. And then again, the pressures financially start to take its toll, and then the whole cycle starts again. They're drinking to this, that. And then with my ex-wife, she's great, by the way. She's a great mom. She's a great one. And she put up with my, I say, like behaviour, you know what I mean, up to drinking and everything like that. You know, just going off, like what, going into London, and I just jump on the train over, you know, and you just be there until you got stay. You know, it's nonsense, really. It's just not best behaviour, let's put it that way. You know, and I say it openly because, you know, it's something that I think a lot of musical creative people go through, no matter whether it's music or art or whatever. You know.
So how was that a stepping stone, if you like, for you to then become a Christian? What was that? How was that?
Well, even though I went through all that with my ex-wife, divorce, and what happened was it got even worse for me. Do you know what I mean? When it got worse, we got divorced and everything. Struggled to see the boys, that kind of stuff, you know. And I lived out of the country for a few years. So I lived out of the country for a few years. And I basically lost everything at the back end of it all. The cars went, the house went, the money dwindled, everything, you know. And you're literally right on the ground, basically. You're at bucket bottom, not knowing where the next paycheck's going to come from. Literally like that. When you're struggling to make ends meet, basically, you know. And it was that when I was living away from home, my sister, who knew what I was going through, and I was too proud to ask for help, you know. So, you know, I went through bankruptcy and everything like that, went through the whole thing, right? And with that, being right at the bottom, trying to work my way back up again, my sister always called me. My sister, do you know what I mean? You know, like full on.
We've met them.
Yeah. I know I wasn't a Christian, you know. So I'm saying that because that's how I felt at the time. Like, my goodness, such a Christian, you know. So it's really like full on Christian. And she would ring me up every week without fail, and she'd say, Derrick, you need to give your life to the Lord. You have to give your life to the Lord. I'm like, yeah, no, but I thought I should make my money back up. And no, Derrick, you have to do it. Give your life to the Lord. Let the Lord help you.
Every week.
Every week she did that. I was awake for 3 years and she rang me every week without fail. And I kept picking up the phone because it was her phone calls that kept me going, you know. And you know, and I'm grateful for those phone calls because those phone calls are like just gold. Do you know what I mean? They're like gold. And it's what kept me going and slowly built me back up, you know. And then one day I started reading the Bible because she started sending me verses, Bible verses and stuff. And I was reading them and she said, listen to Joyce Meyer and all this Bible thing, you know. And I was like, okay. So anyway, I started listening to Joyce Meyer. I'm like, literally, every day when I was doing my little exercises, I'd listen from my headphones and stuff. And I could feel something changing. Do you know what I mean? There's something changing outside of me as a person because I started to build energy, starting to build up, but a positive energy. You know what I mean? We're not done with what that energy brings. at the time, didn't know
Or who?
sorry,
Or who?
or who that energy was, and also, I'd come back to UK to visit my parents, my sister, and I'd go to church in Enfield. Yeah,
Because you've grown up in a church-going house.
and what's being, and I ended up going to church every now and again, and my sister would say, "Dear, I don't want to pray for you to come back," and and the brothers and sisters of Enfield Evangelical Church would come and say, "Wait, pray for you, Derrick, are you going to come back?" I'm like, yeah, well, I'm using. At some point, but I hadn't given my life to Christ at that point. Because, this I've been very honest about, even, so I don't even feel bad about saying it, I'm just going to let you know now. I would be going out clubbing on a Saturday, coming back in at like 5 a.m. and then going to church. And then listen to, the Lord and and all the sermons and everything. And I'll be heavy, really hungover. Do you know what I mean? Really hungover in church. And then sweat on. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. But as the services went on and I kept coming and going, I could feel the Lord getting through to me, saying to me, "You need to change your life," the same as my sister, right? The Lord need to change your life, And when I was back in Poland, I said, one day I just said, "I'm going to give my life to me."
What year would this be?
That's 2014, something like that. 2014, 2015. And again, I gave my life to the Lord then, but I wasn't regular at church or anything, because I was still in Poland at that point.
For those of us kind of new to Christian things, what does that mean? I gave my life to the Lord. What did that mean?
It means that, it's letting the Lord into your life and letting Him guide you spiritually, emotionally. Just let Him help you. Let Him lift you up. Let Him, when you're really at your desperate times, you look to Him for strength. And that's what that looked like. Because I needed help. Seriously, I needed help. I wasn't as bad as some people, but I definitely needed help. Because I was an emotional wreck, overweight, depressed, everything, cholesterol levels, borderline diabetes, all that kind of stuff. It was bad. It was pretty bad. Yeah, pretty bad.
And how did life change? I mean, was it instant or not? Or what are you, looking back, do you think really happened to your life?
Well, when I gave my life to the Lord, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, to be honest. Because it was a really bright sunny day. The sun was shining in the room that I was in. And I just feel so much better, so much more easy to let the Lord take over my life, to guide me through whatever it was I was going through at any time. It's one of the best things I've ever done, to be honest.
So it was kind of an inside out change.
Inside out change, yeah. I just I just started doing things differently, reading the Word, praying every day as well.
That God at that point became real to you.
Yeah, exactly. He just came to me and just said, "Let me help you."
Yeah.
And that you have to let Him help you. You can't have doubts. You have to let Him in, let Him help you, let Him lift you up and show you the route, show you the road. Going through the whole kind of bankruptcy thing that I went through and everything, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I couldn't see that light before, but as soon as I gave my life to the Lord, I see the light at the end of the tunnel.
So I hope enters into your...
Absolutely, 100%.
But becoming a Christian didn't mean joining a monastery, giving up the band, everything else. In one sense, life carried on to your music and Jamiroquai and so on.
Yeah.
Just describe what's the difference then now that you're a Christian?
So now I'm a Christian. I've never enjoyed my career so much. Because that's 6 years ago I stopped drinking as well. But by letting the Lord into my life and letting Him guide me in my musical journey, in my family life, in life, with my parents and everything like that, everything just seemed to just open up. Like the whole light was shining down everything that I was doing. Everything just looked a lot brighter, Musically, I could definitely say musically, what happened, I just started to play better. Literally, I went away, came back a Christian, and then everybody was going, Derrick, you played really well.
So the man noticed.
Yeah, the band noticed, still like, I thought you played really well, Derrick. What's happened? Christian. What?
How did that go?
Yeah, no, they're actually really cool about it. Yeah. The band are very, very accepting of it. Yeah, very accepting of it. They weren't like, oh my gosh, he's going to turn into a crank. Absolutely not. No, they were very accepting of it. Yeah.
So you're a better drummer.
I'm a better drummer
than being a Christian.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's the truth. And you think that's about having a new identity and a purpose and meaning that just fills your whole world?
Yeah. I see it as a way of expressing my spiritual self. I suppose I can say that. My spiritual self through music to people. Do you know what I mean? And the amount of people that come up to me and say, oh my gosh, Derrick, it's so good to hear great music. Do you know what I mean? So not just that I'm not drumming, I wish it was about drumming, but it's not, But it's about the whole musical thing. It just, by giving my life to the Lord, I got more sessions, I got opportunities opened up, I was playing better with the band, I felt a lot better. I just felt a lot better, Also, with the not drinking things. When I stopped the drinking, I could connect with my children as well. Do you know what I mean? Becoming a Christian, I could connect with my children. I said, oh, I'm a Christian. Oh, it's good, Dad.
How old were they?
So my boy was 23. So they totally understood and got it, because they're not Christian, so they get it. Do you know what I mean?
That's bad. They get a phone call as well.
They get the odd phone. Yeah, they do get the odd phone call from time to time. Yeah. But the whole thing, my whole world just seemed brighter.
Yeah.
So, that's the only way I can describe it, really. But the love of the Lord in my life, it's just made me deal with everything in a much more easy, peaceful way. With any situation.
And that means whether you're a church or whether you're drumming, you're doing it with the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Everything's for the Lord.
Yeah, definitely. One last question, Derrick, because time has flown by. So it's quite a story. You need to write it up. So a lot of success.
Yeah.
A lot of loss and pain.
Yeah, definitely.
Finding Jesus through it all. It sounds like there's a story in the Bible, the prodigal son. It sounds a little bit like that for those of us who know. So for someone here tonight who's saying, I haven't thought about some things, I had my own dreams, my own ambitions, I'd love to have the kind of life that you had, in terms of fame and fortune and so on, what would you say to someone who was just reflecting on all of that as a result of
Okay, I would say it's like my sister said, let the Lord into your life. It's just as simple as that, really. Let the Lord into your life, let him guide you, because he loves us. You know what I mean? We have hope in him, you know, and we have faith in him. By having those three things alone, it will help you to just move forward. I'm not saying it's a bed of roses, because it's not a bed of roses, but it's absolutely the best way to move forward and to be happy in what you're doing. Believe in what you're doing. Like I believe in what I'm doing as a drummer, but I would not be here without the Lord. Without the Lord in my life, I would not be here, I can assure you. I would not be here at all. You know, so, you know, let the Lord guide you. God is good, always, no matter what we're going through. Where there's an issue, it's always light at the end of it.
Derrick, thank you so much for all you shared, for your honesty, your openness, your encouragement and your challenges. It's been a real privilege to get to know you. Thank you very much. Richard. Well, I've gotten to know Derrick a little bit over the last few years, and it's been fun because he actually was very kind and gave my two boys each a drum lesson in our own home, which was, I know. So you never know, you could try up tonight afterwards with that one. Clearly, Derrick's a very, very talented musician, and his family knew that from the earliest days, whether it was banging those coat hangers on the floor, keeping rhythm, but also alongside the fame and the fortune came a lot of struggle and heartache, and ultimately, as we've heard, redemption. But what struck me is that in finding a future, he found not just something to keep him in his life, but rather someone. And of course, that someone, as he's told us, is that person of Jesus Christ. And in our story tonight, we find someone who wasn't really looking for Jesus, but bumped into him. In of all places, a well in a desert area in a part of Israel that is called Samaria. It's the story of the woman at the well. She's a woman who probably is some kind of ostracized social outcast in her community, because she's going to collect her daily ration of water for her family in the middle of the day. And if you've ever been to the Middle East, North Africa, Middle East, you'll know that you don't go and fetch and carry in the heat of the noonday sun. So the women would have gone first thing in the morning, in the cool of the day, and gathered up these jars of water that they needed for their day's supply of water and taken it back into the village from the well. But this lady's on her own, and we just know her as a woman from Samaria, the woman from this area. But John tells us of her encounter with Jesus, because when she goes in the heat of the noonday sun to fill up the water jar with water, she finds that Jesus is actually already there. And Jesus spots what she's seeking to do. And Jesus says to her in verse 10, that's the little number 10 on page 8, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. So Jesus asked her for a drink. She's got the container, she can get water out of the well and wants to fill the drink. And Jesus says, if you only knew the person who's asking you for a glass of water, you'd know to ask him for living water. But she doesn't get what he's saying. So she says back in reply, verse 11, Sir, the woman said, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his livestock? I mean, where's your well? Where are you going to get this water from? And Jesus said to her, verse 13, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. So Derrick was chasing the dream, and unlike for many of us, I guess, for him, his dreams came true. I mean, what if he'd never heard that phone ring? What if he hadn't gone back into the house and switched off the alarm? Who knows? But your dreams came true in a way that for many of us, we could only dare to imagine or to hope. So at 15, he's playing 7 pro gigs. At 20, he's touring with Candyland, then Jamiroquai come calling. And that's the future. Everything in the world would suggest that that should satisfy him. That he's arrived. This is the promised land. But as we've just heard, in one sense, fame and fortune didn't deliver. Most of us imagine somehow success just lies around the corner or just up the next hill. It's just there. We just haven't quite got there yet. Derrick got there and discovered actually it really wasn't all he'd hoped it would be. And the pressures of fame and fortune piled up. Alcohol became that coping mechanism. Relationships crumbled. Bankruptcy hit. So even with all of the success in the world, Jesus would say he was still thirsty. Nothing had quenched that thirst. He was thirsty for peace in his heart. He was thirsty for purpose. Thirsty for something that wouldn't run dry or depend upon the next album. And of course, he's just like you and like me in that respect. The story in the Bible is just our story, told to another human being who happened to chance upon Jesus 2,000 years ago. Moby was another star of the 1990s. Derrick, do you ever know Moby? Do you ever know Moby? No, not yet. But he was on the BBC very recently, actually, and he said this: fame and fortune are two of the most destructive forces on the planet. There's a man who sold 20 million albums. Fame and fortune are two of the most destructive forces on the planet. Why? Because they promise you happiness, but fail to deliver. Madonna, that other great icon of the 90s, said, "My drive in life is from this whole fear of being mediocre." And that's always pushing me. Because even though I've become somebody, I still have to prove I am somebody. And that's what Jesus talks about in John chapter 4. He meets this Samaritan woman. She's drawing water from the well every single day. Her job is the same. I need more water. I need more water to quench my thirst, to quench my thirst. And Jesus says the obvious to her, doesn't he? When he says, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. I mean, nothing is more obvious than that. You and I will wake in the morning and be thirsty. Every day of our lives. That's the reality. But of course, he's not talking about H2O. He's pointing to all the things that we chase. Success, approval, pleasure, that feel good for a moment, quench the thirst for a moment, that leave us dry and needing more. Whether it's fame or money, a rock and roll lifestyle, Derrick said they couldn't fill the hole inside and quench that thirst. And I guess in one sense, it was getting to that point of realizing no matter what you have in life, it can't meet that essential need, was the beginning of the journey to faith for Derrick. Starting to look at the Bible, starting to listen to talks from Christians explaining Christian faith, sensing that in some strange way, something or someone was at work in his heart and life, who he then would discover one day and acknowledge to be Jesus. And then, of course, God using his sister Valerie to continually prompt him, let the Lord into your life. I mean, that's the story of the Bible, really, in a sentence. And so one morning, alone in that rented room with the light streaming in, that's what he did. And I guess you could say, to use the language of this passage, he stopped drinking from those old wells and turned to something new. A living water, a new reality, a view of life that was totally transformed began to be his. And that's the story again of anyone who has become a Christian, who knows God personally. The woman at the well had not had the easiest life. We discover later in the story, because Jesus already knows that the man she's currently with is not actually her husband, and she's had 5 husbands before him. So she is a woman who has gone through many, many relationships and become this outcast in her own community on her own, drawing water in the middle of the day. She's struggling. She's searching physically, emotionally, how to make life work. And Jesus does not condemn her. In fact, Jesus was known by all of the people in his time as a friend of sinners. It's almost as if Jesus sees us when we're at our lowest point. It seems the opposite of religion, doesn't it? You think, well, isn't religion about being good enough for God? Jesus goes out of his way to have a conversation with a woman who's a long way from him. And Jesus went out of his way to find someone like Derrick and someone like me and John T and others who know we're not the people that we'd like to be. She's struggling. Derrick was struggling. I was struggling. But we found that whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst, says Jesus. It'll become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. And there is a sense when you become a Christian that in some ways nothing changes in a way. Derrick is still with Jamiroquai, 30 years strong. But having reconnected with the author of life, Jesus, it changes everything for him and for all those who are children of the living God. Because we know our place in the universe, and we know that we are children of God accepted by him, not because of all of our striving and ambition or success, but because God came into our world and chose to go to a cross to take upon himself the penalty for all of those failures in our lives that would keep us far, far from God. And then when Jesus died, he cried, "It is finished." And a way back to God was made possible again because he took all of those things, those horrible things that we've thought and said and done, and paid for them in our place on that cross. So that whoever you are, whether you're the woman at the well, or John T. or Neil or Derrick, the way back to God is open to anyone and to everyone. Not because of who we are, but because of who God is. And once we know we're loved by God and forgiven by God, it does, I think, change everything about our life from the inside out. I love the fact that it is not only Derrick who knew he was a better drummer, but the whole band. I love that. I could see that change. He plays better because God comes first. Every morning, we pray and read the Bible. We say, "The Lord is my strength." And we go into each day ready to serve him and love him and make a difference in the world through the jobs that we do, the people that we care for, the places and times in which God has called us to live. And Jesus doesn't just fill us once. It's not a kind of a flash experience and it's gone. Jesus stays with us, and that flow of living water continues to live in the hearts of all of those who are God's children. And it keeps flowing and it keeps us contented. So we don't have to chase the next high or drown the next low. We've got a relationship with God out of which everything else flows. So what about you? Maybe you're here tonight just thinking about Christian things for the very first time. Maybe you didn't even come to think about Christianity. You just like the thought of hearing Derrick's story or meeting someone from a really big band. I hope it's helped you just think a little bit as we've talked about why actually it might be right that fame and fortune are destructive forces, but a reconnection with the living God through Jesus Christ is what we really need. The cruel irony is for many of us, because we haven't found the dream in the way that Derrick did, we still think it's just there. It's just around the corner. It'll be in the next thing, the next job, the next relationship. winning the lottery, whatever it will be, that's where my happiness will be found. It takes someone who's lived the dream and showed us that it's not really the dream to help us to see that actually chasing the things of this world really will never satisfy our souls. It's what the movie says, it's what Madonna says, it's what Derrick says. They've been there, they've seen it, they love it. But for us, the opportunity to come to Jesus, just as we are, and to find new life and new opportunity through Him, well, that is success. And that's available to each one of us.
Derrick talked about that was all into your life. Someone says, what do you have to do to be saved? Dig into that a bit more. I suppose you could chat to that. What's the first?
What do you have to?
What do you have to do to be saved?
Wow. Well, for me to be saved, again, I'll say it, I had to give rock bottom. But it's a beauty. You have to be in a situation in a place where you feel you cannot get back up and you can't see that light. And then once you are saved and you accept that you are saved, it's a completely different thing. You see the light and you go towards that. That's why I'm saying.
And that is very much born out of your experience in a story. But theologically, because I'm a minister, we sort of sometimes use just ways to help conceptualize it. So you can do it simply in the letters A, B, C. So the letter A just essentially admits that you can't make it on your own, which is exactly what you did. I can't make life work. I can't make my way to God or to whatever's next on my own. So that's admit. The second one, from the A to B, which is to believe that whilst we can't make it go on our own, God will meet us where we are. He doesn't say, pull your socks up, get up off the floor. He will come down and take you by the hand and lift you. So believe that God is for you in Jesus Christ and that He is able to meet every need now and to take those sins away and prepare you and enable you to relate back to God. So A for admit, B for believe, and C for commit. And commit simply means to say, right, now I'm yours, and everything I am is for you.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody saw Cody Gakpo score that third goal for Liverpool, not commenting on your football team or anything else. The Brazilian footballer scored the third goal when they won the Premier League. He pulls off his Liverpool shirt and it simply says, I belong to Jesus. That's a Christian. ABC, admit, believe, commit.
Thank you both. To you, Derrick, I guess you probably answer this better than Neil can. How is it being a Christian in the music industry?
Enjoyable. Enjoyable. I love it. Yeah, there's lots of Christians in the music industry. Yeah, lots of Christians. In fact, one of my very good friends, Michelle John, two of them, Michelle John and Luke Smith, run Songs of Praise. And they're living in the music industry, came to massive stars, Clapton, all that kind of stuff. high-end, A-listers. And they were on Songs of Praise last Sunday, so.
Anything that's not easy or enjoyable about being a Christian?
Do you know what? Being in the industry as a Christian, I'm referring back to what you said, accepting and committing, it actually makes being in the industry a lot more fun, to be honest, yeah. Even though it has its ups and downs, I actually really enjoy being a Christian and doing the music and touring and everything. That also gives me the chance to talk to other Christians, but also non-Christians about how much the Lord has done for me and about for me. So it's great to be in the music industry.
It's great, yeah. Drinking, clubbing, fame, fortune, and a high life still don't sound that bad to me. Why is God better than that life? And if not easier? And why this God? That's 3 questions in one, gee. Why is God better than that life?
Because that life is what brought me down to the desperation, basically. You know, the clubbing, the drinking, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. That's what brought me down to the lowest part of the lowest of lowest in my life, and I had to hit. And again, like I said before, I had to hit that low point to then get back up. And God met me at the lowest part of my life and dragged me back up from where I was. I mean, I don't know where I'd be now if the Lord hadn't dragged me up and I hadn't started to believe and bring the Lord into my life. You know, believing Jesus Christ like my Savior. It's the only way. It was the only way. I had no other choice. No other choice.
Yeah. Just to not answer that in the same way, but a complementary way, the deep questions of life, my identity, purpose, meaning, destiny, all of these huge questions. Where is my life going? Is there anything worth living for? Is there anything worth dying for? Why should I even care about tomorrow? All of those deep existential questions can't be filled by a pint of beer. All that can do is just numb the pain of, or attempt to fill the void, or make those questions go away for a season, but they can't actually provide those deep meaning. Reconnecting with the God who made us for a relationship with himself is where we suddenly find meaning, identity, purpose, value, hope, and all of a sudden everything else finds its proper place. Playing drums in Jamiroquai, amazing. What a great thing to do, but you're not doing it to try to fill your life with meaning. You know Jesus and it flows out of that. You know?
Lots of people just wrestling with that moment that changed you, Derek. Another question, like, if I give my life, if I give myself to the Lord, will it solve all my life problems?
No, it won't solve the problems, but because it didn't solve all of my problems, what it did was it made me deal with the problems in a much better and peaceful way. Because, you know, I mean, I've still got problems now from like 12 years ago, to be honest. But whereas I was super stressing before, I mean, really stressing, you know, like put my hair up, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, yeah. Literally believing in the Lord and letting him guide me, show me the path on how to deal with it. It just helped me to deal with all these problems in a much easier and much more peaceful way. Just, you know, believing, having faith, and just being able to go on that road, and the Lord saying to you, don't worry about that. I will take care of your problems. I will take care of your worries. It's fine. You'll get through it. You get across that bridge. You get to the end of the road. I still have problems, you know, all the time, to be honest. I have problems all the time. I don't stress about it. So, dear Lord, please show me the way. That's it. And he always shows me the way. Always.
Yeah, Tom. Again to you, Derek. As a member of there's a musician speaking, as a member of a band whose songs aren't always pro-Christian, I often struggle to stand out or feel hypocritical when I try. Any tips on how to do this better?
Sorry, say that again?
Okay, again. So, as a member of a band whose songs aren't always pro-Christian, this person often struggles to stand out or feels hypocritical when they try. Any tips on how to do it better?
Didn't make it love. You know what I mean? You know, I know a lot of musicians who are kind of just go with the flow. You know what I mean? You know, go with whatever, go with the training or whatever. If the Lord is saying to you, write a Christian song over a disco backing track, do it. Just do it. You know, if he's saying to you, write a Christian song, which we all know, I mean, over a country western track, there's so many Christian tracks out there in different genres, you know. Just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to do what you want to do. Ask the Lord to help you. Let the Lord guide you to do what you want. It's the only way. Honestly, with you, it's the only way. Look, you know, the songs in Jamiroquai, some of them are controversial, you know, but I don't let that bother me, because for me, I'm Christian. God is with me. God is helping me. God is guiding me. So I can't tell Jay what to write about. He writes about whatever he wants. He writes about his life stories sometimes, you know what I mean? You know, but what I do is enjoy the music that I play. I don't necessarily, you know, take on board what he's singing about, and a lot of the time I know the melodies more than the lyrics, so I just sing the melodies. When I'm playing a live gig, I just sing the melodies, right, and that helps me to enjoy it even more. You know, if you want to write lyrics as a Christian musician in a pop band, there's always a way. There's always a way you can get through to people, and get through to people who are non-Christians, because they will get it. My Sweet Lord is a classic. You know what I mean? You know, that is, you know, you listen to that lyric as a Christian, it means a lot. You know what I mean? But back when I was a kid, being all what it was just the line. It's just the line, you know. But for me, it means a lot. You know, whatever you want to do, if you want to write the lyric as a Christian in a pop band, just do it. The Lord will guide you how to word that. He will guide you how to word it and get through to non-Christians as well as other Christians.
Do you have to give up alcohol to let the Lord in?
I was just drinking too much. That's the problem, not really. You know, I was drinking too much. It was just excessive. I mean, I wasn't passing out or anything like that, but my tolerance of alcohol was very, very high. It's very high. You know, and I could drink for a long time as well, you know, for hours. Although I'd go into the next day, things like that. But I gave up because I knew it was actually time for me to give up, time to connect with God, time to connect with my children, time to connect with myself as well, you know. So you don't have to give up alcohol to be a Christian or let the Lord into your life. You just got to do everything in moderation. Don't do it in excess with anything. You know, just don't do it in excess. Just keep it all on the level.
As Helpin says, yeah, you felt you needed to, because of your situation, it's not their point.
Yeah, it's not real.
Again to you, Derek, if fame and fortune aren't what drive you anymore, if you're already satisfied, guess in your relationship with the Lord, what is it that drives you to keep creating?
Creating, yeah. It's a way of life for me, you know. To be creative, I was born to be creative from the time I picked up the sticks and started playing on the floor in my mum and dad's flat back in Islington. And like I said before, you know, the Lord has blessed me with this talent. You know, I've never been to music school or anything like that. I'm completely self-taught. I've had like 5 lessons in my whole life. and I enjoy what I do. You know, right at an early age, I said, this is what I want to do. It's just, I just love to be creative. The Lord has blessed me to be creative. You know what I mean? And He's saying, take that creativity and give it out to other people, and talk to other people about how much He has helped me. He's got me to where I am today, to give me to be able to come here and talk to you all. And I appreciate that, like, forever. The Lord saved me, basically. If I'd carried on the route that I was way back there, I wouldn't be here tonight.
And so glad you are. It's not a niche question, but it's the most popular, so I'll ask it. Have you ever played in church? What is your view on drum screens? Everyone's got a view on drum screens. Right?
Don't get me started on I'm not a fan of drum screens.
Sorry, a drum screen is like a big perspex screen which kind of contains drummers so that everyone doesn't have to listen to, so everyone doesn't have to listen to the noise and they can control the...
Apparently. Yeah, drum screens, we're not the best of friends. We're not the best of friends. I don't like church. Actually, no, I don't play at church. The reason I don't play at church is because I want to dedicate my worshiping time to 100% to the Lord. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but it's just how I feel. It's just how I feel. And the bands that we have in the church are amazing. They're great. And I definitely don't be stepping on anybody's. The drummer we have is actually really cool, James. He's really good, actually. And when he started, when I saw him all those years back, he was literally just starting. So you can just about hold a beat. But now he's amazing.
He's still at Enfield?
And he's still at Enfield and he's still drumming away. He's great. Yes, great. There is no.
Let's go, both of you, speak this up. Favourite book of the Bible or Bible story and why? Both of you?
Well, I was asked this the other night on Monday, and I picked the Psalms, which are basically, if you don't know your way around the Bible, if you just open the book in the middle, you basically come to the hymn book or the songs of the leaders. And the reason I said I liked it was because actually across the 150 Psalms or songs that are recorded for us there's something for every season of the soul, for every day and circumstance and situation in which you find yourself. Because being a Christian doesn't mean everything is something easy. There are times of deep sadness and sorrow and times of rejoicing and comfort and pain and these sort of things. And I just found that a great comfort for me as a guide for my Christian life, that I can pour out my heart to God and it gives me words to say back to God that I know are good and proper.
For me, I have a favourite verse, which again was given to me by my sister, Vanessa. He's a room legend, badly. He's amazing. This is from Psalm 27, verse 1. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? And for me, those two verses, that one verse is one of the verses that really lifted me up and helped me to connect with God, basically, again, because I was at my lowest point, and this verse just basically said to me, let me into your life, let the Lord into my life and I will strengthen you. I will lift you up. Do not be afraid of anything, of it or of anyone. What can man do to me? To me, And it's that verse is so strong for me. Even when I go through issues, major issues, I'm like, don't be afraid of him. the Lord is the strength of my heart. He will see me through, and He will guide me to deal with any situation. So that one thing helps.
Right, we're coming to the end now. A quick one. How long did virtual insanity take to run?
How long?
Yeah.
Well, from what I can believe, Jane wrote it in a car, right coming from the airport in Japan to the hotel in Osaka, I think it was. Yeah, so about an hour.
Right. Yeah. That's a good return for that.
About an hour's work
Wow.
and a taxi ride.
Goodness. Final this one with. Feel free to do this as you will. Lyrics of Rock, Dust Star, Light Star allude to a pain and lostness that's been experienced in the past. Does this make you sad for your bandmates when you play it?
As aggressive as this might sound, no. And I'm not. And the reason why I say that is because, again, it's experience talk. That's a lyric through somebody else, the people's experience. You know what I mean? So for me, I feel that it's a great thing to portray. It's a good thing for people to listen to. Do you know what I mean? And then in addition to those lyrics, what you're getting is also a band which are delivering it at 110%. And that's where it hits home for a lot of people. We love, as a band, we love to play music. That's what we do. Jay loves to write lyrics. He loves music. That's all he knows. He's like me. All we know is music. If it left us tomorrow, I don't know what we do, to be honest. Pizza, pub, or something like that.
Final question. Great to have both of you thoughts on this. Many people walk away from faith when they taste fame. How can Christians wanting to be public figures stay strong in their faith? How can they? Yeah, let's think about that. How can they stay strong in their faith? Advice from both of you.
Do you know what? Like I say, a lot of people walk away. They walk away from it. Maybe because people walk away from it because they're just not confident in themselves, or they just want to take another path. I myself, I wake up every morning. I read my Bible. I pray. Without a doubt, those are the first two things that I do before I do anything. And that's what keeps me there. Without doing those two things, I'm basically lost. And something will go wrong in my day. Something will go wrong, And then when I pray, it all seems to come back together. I'm not just saying that, it's the actual truth. The actual truth. And I'll make sure I wake up every morning, give God thanks for His blessings, His mercies, and His provisions. Always. Always.
So put God first, and then make sure you have good people with you on the journey.
Yeah.
So I'm pleased that my friend used an organisation called Christians in Sport, and he works with. He never gives their names. He's very discreet, but he works with top-end professional footballers and other sports stars, athletes, and all the rest of it. And he's there to try to guide and to help them through and navigate through incredibly complex world of professional sport. So there are good organizations that can help. I don't know in the music industry whether you have chaplains or any folk like that who do that work. But I think having others with you, I think is essential, particularly because of the irregular hours that you do, all of the travel, everything that goes with it. Don't try and go with a lot. So I'd say put God first and go with life.
Absolutely. 100%.
Or make sure you've got Larry's phone number.
Loves me about that. That's been a great evening. Thank you so much for your time. Be honest, me, show appreciation to